Well, thank you for joining me again. I'm going to be working on my 830 in this video. My wife, she's actually at a girls' camp right now, and so while she's up there, I brought my girls up here. I've got 3 little daughters. We came up to visit my parents, their grandparents, and they're going to be spending the night. And so tonight, after I get them to bed, I'll come out and I'll work in the shop on my 830. But anyway, let me show you what we got going. So last time I came up, I finally got this big diesel engine started using the pony engine. However, the clutch down inside the starting engine right here was slipping. So I've got to address that. Let's get this thing pulled out and moved over into the other shop. The very first thing I'm going to be doing right now is getting the pony motor running to see if that Bendix gear is constantly spinning. I've really got my fingers crossed, hoping that it isn't. I think that the last time I started it, it did break free whatever was stuck inside there. So if after I get it started and the Bendix gear isn't spinning, it'll be just a huge sigh of relief that I don't have to go tearing into the pony motor and that starting transmission more than I have to. Possible. That is so frustrating. So frustrating. I think I may have just found an issue, possibly the issue that's holding us up. So if you look down inside this cover right here, this is the pressure plate, and down inside here you can see friction material. And it looks like the friction material, let me put my hand out of there. So it looks like this friction material is supposed to be attached to the clutch disc, and it's not. And it's loose, but it's also kind of bound up here with this spring. So if I push this down, I don't know if you can see me pushing it down. I mean, if that friction material on that clutch disc is stuck and is colliding with these pins on the pressure plate, then that would explain why it's always locked together, because the clutch disc is interfering with these pins. And so no matter what I do. So I think what I need to do, unfortunately, is pull this transmission off. I do not know if I can do that without removing the pony motor. That's frustrating. But hopefully that is the issue. Either way, I mean, even if that isn't the issue, I don't think that that's right. And either way, I mean, something's wrong in here because it's bound up. And that's why this Bendix gear down here, that Bendix gear down there is always spinning. Let me know, people who have removed these transmissions, let me know if that can be done without removing the pony motor. I'll have to go read through the manual and see what it says. Shoot. So just because I found that issue with the pony motor, I don't think that that means that I need to stop for tonight. There's still a few other things that I can get taken care of. Because I want to go on the tractor drive this in a couple of weeks, and I can actually start it without the pony motor, it pull starts really easily, so it's not ideal, but I can get someone to just pull start me every time I shut the engine down on the tractor drive. One other thing I want to take care of is the wheel bearings. Before we go driving on a tractor drive, I got to make sure that these are greased up and tight so that I don't have issues and damage something while we're driving on the tractor drive. I don't know if you can see this right here, but after cleaning that grease off, you can see that this cap right here has been welded once right across here. So you can kind of see a little bit of history about this thing. You know, it's been used and it's been repaired. I might have an extra one of these caps, assuming that this cap isn't specific to this, what do you want to call it, industrial hub. So this is the first time I've noticed this. So I'm assuming that this right here is a part number, and motor wheel, maybe that's the company or the style of hub that this is, not hub. That's the style of rim that this is. You see that? This grease is, well, it's actually still pretty soft. Well, you're not going to believe it. I cleaned all the grease off of this hub and I went to take this nut off, and I was trying, you know, it's a castellated nut, or I assumed it would be. And so I was trying to find the cotter pin that goes through there. And as I got looking closer at this nut is welded to the axle. I don't know why they would have ever done that, but I'm thinking, here's my theory. So this cap is also broken, and I'm guessing probably at one point maybe this came loose or something, and you know, maybe this wheel kind of hit something, or anyway, the threads on this axle, I'm guessing, were damaged somehow, and they couldn't tighten this nut, and the wheel was loose. You know, obviously the cap is damaged here also, and I don't think that you can buy a new one of these axles or knuckles, whatever you want to call it, because I think that this is probably specific to the industrial tractor. So you're not going to be getting a new one of those. And so rather than, you know, try to find another parts tractor or something like that, what they did is they just put that nut on there as far as they could. Maybe they put a new bearing on it at that point too, and just welded it in place. And you know, fortunately, I don't think that I'll be driving this thing all that far, but that is kind of a little bit of a bummer that there's no way to adjust that bearing. There's no way to replace that bearing. There's no way to tighten the hub on the axle. So where it's at right now is where it's going to stay forever. So I think what I need to do is just pack as much grease up in there as I possibly can, and then put the dust cap back on, pack this full of grease, and man, just pay attention to that. And hopefully this doesn't go south on me in the near future. Okay, that's all greased up really well. The tires spins just fine, but it is a little bit loose. Anyway, not much else I can do about that. So this is what it's supposed to look like. Here I am on the left-hand side. You've got a castellated nut and a cotter pin passing through it, just like you would expect. So I think that the silver lining behind this whole situation with that one axle nut being welded to the axle is that we've got plenty of grease in there. There's not any corrosion. The axle nut could be tightened. I mean, I wish it could be tightened a little bit. I could think about maybe getting some shim stock and like making some like horseshoe shaped shims and wedging that in there. I don't know if that would do anything, if that would be good or bad, but you know, just a way to get rid of some of that free play. But I think I'm just glad that it works for now. I don't like the idea of driving on it because I don't want to wear it out, but at the same time, what's the point of having it if you can't drive it? And I do have a spare axle. I have an axle. I've collected parts over the years, and one of the parts that I have is I have about several parts from an 820, and I'd have a front axle from an 820. You know, it's curved like the ag axles are, but worst case, I mean, if in the future this does cause a problem, I have another axle I can put on it. It won't be, you know, the straight axle like this, and it won't have the cool front tires like this, but that's just what happens. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish putting this left-hand front tire together. I'm going to re-grease all of this and then put the dust cap back on, and it should be good to go. So right now, I don't know if you can see, but the pre-cleaner is stuck onto the air breather stack. I don't know if it's rusted or whatever, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my torch and just lightly heat this cast. I think it's cast aluminum, but I'm going to heat this cast aluminum piece, and hopefully that'll expand it enough that it'll release from this steel breather stack. That'll help out because right now, every time I put the hood on or off, I have to take this whole air breather assembly with it, and it's a big, huge pain. Got it. So this is the bottom of the oil bath air cleaner, and if you look down inside here, you can just see how much grime and garbage and grease there is sitting in the bottom here. I don't know how many decades it's been since this has been cleaned last, but I do know that when I first started it and I took this off, this was full of ice and it was just a huge mess. I really want to have good clean air, especially on a diesel. With a diesel engine, since you don't have a throttle that regulates how much air is going in and out of the engine. I mean, the engine is basically just sucking as much air as it can all the time, and the way that you're adjusting the throttle is by how much fuel you're injecting in with the injectors. So you really got to make sure that you have good, clean air filters with a diesel engine. So that's what this is for, and so I'm going to make sure that that it is as good as it needs to be. incredibly filthy, but everything's clean now. I'll just fill it up with oil. And then this is a really nice screen. There's 6 layers of this fine mesh all clamped together. So then that goes over the top of that. So air will come in through the filter. Excuse me, air will come in through the air stack, goes down inside here. There's oil in here. It will go through the oil and then back up around the outside of this big canister where there's like a fine wire mesh kind of thing. And so any dirt that's getting sucked into the intake gets captured by the oil and never makes its way into the engine. So it's really probably the nicest oil bath air filter I've ever seen. Well, I threw all the sheet metal back up on this, the hood, the flywheel cover, and now I can finally get the air breather on and off. Well guys, it's the next morning and I've had some time to sleep on and think about the things I discovered last night with the pony motor and then with that front wheel axle. A little bit, it's kind of a little bit discouraging, but in the end, you know, this is a process, and I mean, what would I expect, you know, having pulled something from a field that, you know, was essentially a retired piece of equipment, and it had been sitting for 20 years, you know. It's not surprising that I'm finding issues like this. So I do need to fix the pony motor, and I've got some ideas on that front wheel. I'm not going to do anything with the front wheel right now. I think it's fine, but long term, I was talking to my dad about some possibilities for repairs should we need a repair in the future. I think the repair option that we were thinking of is it would have to be with a machinist, but they could probably cut that nut off, and they could probably get this, once that nut is cut off, then they could get the hub off, and then they may be able to build up with some, you know, welding. They may be able to build up and rethread that end of the axle right here, and then they could cut some new threads on it. And like I say, I need to get a machine shop to help me out there, but I think that would be the repair option to salvage whatever damage there is with this front hub, with this front axle knuckle assembly. And then that would allow me to continue to use these big, huge hubs should I need to do anything in the future. You know, who knows how long it's been like that? I don't know. Based off of how much I'm going to be driving this thing, you know, we may never even need to do anything with that front bearing at all. So in case you're wondering, this front hub, I was doing some more research on it. This is R20026R. That's the part number for this kind of knuckle and front axle assembly. It's different than the ag version, but with a tape measure we were taking some basic measurements and it looks like it's about the same. And so it would be interesting to see if this front knuckle is interchangeable with the ag version. And I'll put the part number for the ag version down here below. We're gonna get this thing pulled out and put in the back shed now. Okay, so since I'm having problems with my pony motor, we're just going to go ahead and pull start this. I'm in 5th gear right now. We'll pull it over with the compression release, hold back. Then once we get going, I'll let the compression release go, and then we'll apply throttle and it should start right up. There's the clutch. There's that. Starts right up. doesn't really fit here super great, so I think I'm going to put it in the other barn. Okay, there it is, all parked, put away.